My girlfriend shared a throwback with her ex captioned, "We were perfect once disappointed face." I saw it, took a screenshot, and made my decision that same night without any argument. We were perfect once. That's what she wrote. Not to me. Not in a private message. Not in some old journal I wasn't supposed to find. She posted it publicly, with his face right next to hers, and then went to sleep beside me like nothing happened. I didn't say a word that night. I just lay there in the dark, phone face down on my chest, staring at the ceiling. And by the time the sun came up, I had already decided. You want to know what's funny? That morning, she kissed me on the cheek before she left for work, made me coffee, left a little sticky note on the fridge that said, "Have a good day, babe." And I stood in that kitchen, her coffee in my hand, her handwriting on that yellow paper, and thought about how the same person who wrote that had also, just hours before, told the entire internet that someone else was her definition of perfect. I didn't throw the mug. I didn't rip the note. I finished the coffee, and I started making calls. If you enjoy real stories like this, subscribe, because what happened next changed everything for me. I'm 29. She, Amber, is 27. We'd been together for 2 years and 4 months. That's it. That's all the backstory you need right now. The relationship started clean. No red flags at the beginning. Nothing that made me stop and think, wait, hold on. She was funny, sharp, the kind of woman who remembers small things. The name of the server who brought us our first date dinner. The exact song playing when we first danced in her living room at 1 a.m. Details like that used to make me feel like she saw me. Like I was specific to her. Like I wasn't just a person, but the person. We moved pretty naturally, dated for 4 months, made it official, met each other's people, started doing the domestic, quiet, boring things that actually mean something when you love somebody. She left a toothbrush at my place. I kept a spare charger at hers. Her shampoo lived in my shower. I didn't mind. Her ex's name was Qley. I knew about him. She'd mentioned him early on, casually, the way people do when they're trying to seem unbothered by something that actually bothers them. We dated for 3 years. It just ran its course. That's how she described it. Ran its course. Like a cold. Like a Netflix show that got canceled. Like something that ended naturally and completely, with no loose threads left dangling. I believed that. For a long time, I believed every word of it. I didn't realize it then, but that moment, that first casual mention of Qley, was the beginning of something I wouldn't fully understand until much later. The first time I noticed something off was around the 9-month mark. We were at a barbecue at her friend Kayla's place. Outdoor string lights, paper plates, someone's Bluetooth speakers cycling through a summer playlist. Normal Saturday stuff. At some point I was inside grabbing drinks from the fridge, and I overheard Amber and Kayla talking on the porch. I wasn't eavesdropping. The window was open. Their voices just carried. "I just think you should be careful," Qley was saying. "You're reading too much into it," Amber said. "Am I? You liked every single photo he posted last month." A pause. "That doesn't mean anything." "Amber." "Kayla, stop. I love who I'm with." I grabbed the drinks, walked back outside, smiled at both of them, and I told myself exactly what Amber had just told Kayla. It doesn't mean anything. I actually believed that. Months passed. Things were good. Not perfect. No relationship is, but genuinely good. We traveled together twice. She met my parents. I met hers. Her mom called me the steady one. At the time I took that as a compliment. Later I'd wonder if it was meant as a contrast to something, or someone. Qley existed on the edges. Never at the center. Just there. A ghost that showed up in small, forgettable ways. A song she'd skip too fast when it came on shuffle. A restaurant she didn't want to go to when I suggested it. "I've just been there too many times," she said. A part of town she avoided without explaining why. I noticed. I always noticed. But I didn't push. Because I trusted her. Because she'd said it ran its course. Because I wanted to be the kind of partner who didn't make his insecurities someone else's problem. That was a mistake. Not the trusting part. The staying quiet part. About 14 months in, she started talking about Qley a little more. Not constantly. Not obsessively. Just more. "Qley used to hate this kind of movie too," she'd say. Or, "Qley and I went through something like this once." Small references. Harmless on the surface. But here's the thing about small references. They accumulate. They stack. And eventually the stack gets tall enough that you can't ignore it anymore. I brought it up once. Gently. We were cooking dinner together, and she'd mentioned his name for the 3rd time that week, and I just said, very quietly, "You talk about him a lot." She looked up from the cutting board. "Do I?" "A little, yeah." She was quiet for a second. Then she said, "He was a big part of my life for 3 years." It's just normal to reference someone like that. And the way she said it, not defensive, not guilty, just matter of fact, made me feel like I was the one being unreasonable. So I dropped it. I wish I hadn't. About 4 months before the post, something shifted. I couldn't name it at the time. It was one of those invisible changes, the kind that happens in millimeters, so slow you don't see it moving, until one day you look up and everything is different. She was a little more distant. Not cold, just less present. Like part of her was somewhere else even when she was right in front of me. I asked her once if she was okay. "I'm fine," she said. "Just tired." I asked again, a week later. "Work stress. Don't worry about it." I asked a third time. This one over dinner, sitting across from her at the table, looking her directly in the eyes, and I said, "I feel like you're somewhere else lately. Talk to me." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "I'm right here," she said. "I promise." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her. I started paying attention differently after that. Not out of suspicion exactly. More out of that low-grade anxiety you get when something in your gut is whispering that things aren't quite right, but your brain hasn't caught up yet. I noticed she started sleeping with her phone face down. She'd always done that sometimes, so I didn't react. I noticed she got quieter on her phone when I was in the room. Again, not necessarily suspicious. Maybe work. Maybe nothing. I noticed that whenever I brought up the future, real future talk, like where we might live, whether we'd ever get a dog, vague marriage-shaped conversations, she'd smile, but not engage the way she used to. Used to be she'd lean in. Used to be she'd say things like, "I want a big porch," or 2 dogs minimum. Now she just smiled and changed the subject. I noticed all of it, and I said nothing, because I didn't want to be the paranoid boyfriend, because I kept telling myself I was probably projecting, because love makes you patient in ways that aren't always good for you. The night it happened was a Tuesday, completely unremarkable. We'd had dinner together, takeout, nothing special, watched half a show, and she'd gone to bed early around 10, saying she was exhausted. I stayed up. I wasn't tired. I was doing what I usually did late at night, reading, scrolling, existing quietly in my own space while she slept. My phone was on the coffee table. Hers was plugged in on the couch cushion beside me, charging. I wasn't looking at it. I want to be very clear about that. I was not looking at her phone. What happened was this. Her screen lit up with a notification. An Instagram notification, big enough for me to see the preview from where I was sitting. A comment on her post. From someone named Qley. The comment was 3 words. Those were days. I froze. A notification for a comment means she'd posted something. Recently. Something he'd seen and felt the need to respond to. I picked up my own phone. Opened Instagram. Found her profile. And there it was. A throwback photo. Her and Qley. Younger, smiling, somewhere outdoors, a beach or a park, I couldn't fully tell. His arm around her. Her head tilted toward him in that easy, unself-conscious way people lean into someone they feel completely safe with. Both of them laughing at something off camera. Genuinely happy. Genuinely together. And the caption, "We were perfect once." Posted 47 minutes ago. While I was sitting right here. While she was in my bed. While my name presumably still showed up in her phone as boyfriend. I sat there for a long time. The TV was still on, some late-night talk show on mute, the host laughing silently at something. And the sound of the city outside came through the window in that low, ambient hum that usually feels like white noise. Tonight it felt like static. I took a screenshot. I don't know exactly why I did it in that moment. Instinct, maybe. That quiet, animal part of the brain that knows before the rational part catches up that evidence matters. That you'll want proof later when the fog clears and someone tries to tell you you're overreacting. I took the screenshot, and then I sat with it. Let me tell you what "we were perfect once" actually means when your girlfriend posted about another man while you're in the next room. It's not nostalgia. Nostalgia is private. Nostalgia is a feeling you have at 2 a.m. when an old song plays and you remember something bittersweet, and you let yourself feel it for a moment, and then you go to sleep. Nostalgia doesn't get posted. Nostalgia doesn't get captioned and filtered and shared with everyone who follows you, including the man she's currently with. What she posted was a declaration. It was public, intentional, with a sad face emoji so the world could see she wasn't over it. That's not nostalgia. That's an open wound she was choosing to press on, in front of everyone, while I slept, or while she thought I was sleeping, 10 feet away. I went through the comments. I know, but I did. Kayla had commented, OMG, I forgot about this photo. A few other friends had left hearts and crying faces. And Cole's 3 words. Those were days. She hadn't liked it yet, but she would. I didn't go wake her up. I want to be very specific about that. I didn't storm into the bedroom. I didn't stand over her and demand an explanation. I didn't throw anything. I didn't send a single message. Not to her, not to him, not to anyone. I turned off the TV. I plugged in my own phone. I went into the bedroom, got into bed as quietly as I could, lay down on my side, and I thought. I thought about the barbecue. About Kayla's voice through the window. You liked every single photo he posted last month. I thought about the restaurant she didn't want to go to. About the songs she skipped. About the neighborhood she avoided. About the 3 years she described as something that just ran its course. I thought about her face when she said, "I'm right here, I promise," while she was already somewhere else. And I thought about that photo. That laughing, leaning, easy, breathtaking photo with its heartbreak caption and its sad face emoji and its 47 minutes of existence before I even knew it was there. I thought about all of it. Slowly, methodically, without anger. Or maybe the anger was there, but it was so deep it felt like stillness. And somewhere around 2 a.m., I made my decision. Not in a rage. Not crying. Not in some dramatic moment of clarity with the rain against the window. Just quietly. Completely. Like a door closing. Here's something people don't tell you about moments like this. The decision itself is the easy part. Once you've seen what you've seen and thought what you've thought and felt what you've felt, once you've put the pieces together and understood what you're actually dealing with, the decision almost makes itself. It's not the deciding that's hard. It's what comes after. The logistics of love. The untangling. The space that gets left behind. I got up early. Before her. Made coffee, 1 cup, for myself. Sat at the kitchen table with my phone and quietly started sorting through the practical pieces. I had some things at her place. She had things here. We had a trip booked for next month. Flights and a hotel that would need to be canceled or reassigned. Small accountabilities. The infrastructure of a relationship that's about to be taken apart. I wrote a list. She came out of the bedroom around 8. Hair down. In the oversized sweatshirt she always wore on weekend mornings. This was Tuesday, but she'd taken the day off. She looked soft and sleepy, and like herself. She poured coffee. Came and sat across from me. "You're up early," she said. "Couldn't sleep." She nodded. Wrapped both hands around her mug. "Bad dreams?" "No." She looked at me. "You okay?" "Yeah." A pause. She looked down at her coffee. I looked at her. And I thought, does she know that I know? Did her phone buzz last night with more comments and she'd opened it and seen the screenshot I'd taken? No. Wait, she couldn't see that. It was on my phone. Did she know her screen had lit up right next to me? Did she think I might have seen? I couldn't tell. Her face was just morning face. Open. Ordinary. Completely unreadable if you didn't know what to look for. We had a normal morning. That's the part that still sits with me strangely. We had a completely, almost frighteningly normal morning. She made toast. I answered some work emails. We talked about something on the news. She laughed at something I said. And the whole time the post was just out there. Public. Captioned. We were perfect once. And I was sitting here, her coffee in the same kitchen, watching her butter her toast, already knowing what I was going to do. Around noon, I said I had some errands. She didn't question it. I drove to my friend Brent's place. Brent and I have been close since college. The kind of friend who gives you straight answers, not comfortable ones. I showed him the screenshot without any preamble. He read it. Looked at me. Looked at it again. How long ago? Last night. Posted while I was sitting in the same apartment. He handed my phone back. What are you going to do? I've already decided. He nodded. Didn't push. Didn't offer a speech about how I should talk to her first or how there might be an explanation. Just nodded. That's the thing about good friends. They know when to speak and when to just sit with you. We sat with it for a while. Brent did eventually say one thing. You know she's going to say it was just a moment of nostalgia. I know. She's going to say it didn't mean anything. I know. And you're not going to believe her. I looked at him. I've been watching this for over a year, I said. The skipped songs. The avoided streets. The way she talks about him. The way she doesn't talk about us the same way she used to. Last night was just the thing I could take a screenshot of. He didn't say anything to that. Because there was nothing to say. I went back that evening. She'd texted a couple of times while I was out. Nothing urgent. Want anything from the store? Home for dinner? I'd replied normally. No thanks. Yeah, be back by 7. I walked in. She was in the kitchen. She smiled when she saw me. And that smile, God, That smile was still the same one, warm and real in hers. And I thought about how something can be real and not be enough at the same time. "Hey," she said. "Hey, how were the errands?" "Fine." She turned back to whatever she was doing at the counter. I set my keys down, sat at the kitchen table, and then, very calmly, I said her name. She turned around. Something in my voice must have been different. Tone, weight, something, because the look on her face shifted immediately. "What's wrong?" she asked. I put my phone on the table, screenshot facing up, slid it toward her. She came closer, looked down at it, and I watched her face. Watched it go from confused to recognizing to something complicated and difficult to name. Not guilt exactly, more like the face of someone who has been hoping they wouldn't have to have a conversation and has just been told they no longer get that choice. She didn't move for a second. Then she sat down across from me. "How did you?" Your phone was next to me on the couch. The notification lit up. I looked at my own phone. A pause. "I wasn't snooping," I said. "I want to be clear about that." "I know," she said quietly. "I know you weren't." She looked at the screenshot again. Then she looked at me. "I know how this looks," she said. "Tell me how it's supposed to look." She was quiet. Her hands were flat on the table. Not fidgeting, just still. "It was just a moment," she started. "I found the photo going through old albums, and I felt nostalgic." She looked at me. "Yes. And you thought the right move was to post it publicly. With that caption, I wasn't thinking about how it looked. I was just feeling it." She stopped. The quiet between us stretched out. Outside, someone was playing music 2 floors up, something with a slow bass line that came down through the ceiling like a pulse. "Amber," I said. Her eyes came up to mine. "How long have you been in contact with him?" She didn't answer immediately. That pause told me everything. A pause is not the same as thinking. A pause is sometimes just the body buying time while the mind figures out what version of the truth it can live with saying out loud. "We've talked a few times," she said finally. "Since when?" "Since around the beginning of the year." I did the math quietly. Beginning of the year. 4 months ago. Around the same time she started going somewhere else, even when she was right in front of me. "About what?" "Just..." She trailed off. "Catching up. Old memories." "Nothing happened." "I didn't ask if something happened," I said. "I asked what you talked about." She looked uncomfortable. Not guilty in the way someone looks when they've done something and got caught. Uncomfortable in the way someone looks when they've been doing something they knew they shouldn't, and they've been hoping they'd figure it out before anyone noticed. "We just talked," she said. "About our lives. About how we ended." He reached out, and I responded, and it became a thing. A thing. Not a thing like. She stopped herself. "Talking. That's all." "And the post." She looked at the screenshot. "Seeing that photo just brought up a lot," she said. "I didn't post it to hurt you. I genuinely wasn't thinking about how it would. You weren't thinking about me." She went quiet. "That's not what I said." "I know," I said. "But it's what happened." She was crying now. Quietly. Not dramatically. Just the kind of crying that happens when you're too tired to hold something back anymore. And here's the thing. I wasn't unmoved. I want to be honest about that. I didn't sit there stone-faced and unaffected. I cared about her. I still cared about her in that moment. That's the cruelest part of decisions like this. You can love someone and still know you're done. Those two things can be true at the same time. "Say what you're thinking," she said. "I've been thinking it all night. And all day. Tell me." I folded my hands on the table. "I think you have feelings for him that you never fully closed the door on," I said. "I think when he came back into your life a few months ago, something in you started leaning toward that door again. I think you've been somewhere between here and there for months, and I've felt it without being able to name it. And I think last night you let some of that out publicly, whether you were thinking about me or not. And now we're sitting here." She was shaking her head slowly. Not disagreeing, I thought. More like she couldn't stand hearing it said out loud. "I love you," she said. "I know you do. Then why does it feel like you've already decided something?" I looked at her, and I realized she'd been watching me all evening the same way I'd been watching her. Reading. Noticing. She knew. On some level, she already knew that I hadn't come back tonight to fight or demand or negotiate. She knew I'd come back to close something. "Because I have," I said. The next part wasn't long, or loud, or cruel. That's the thing about decisions made in stillness. They don't need a big scene to hold them up. I told her I wasn't angry. I meant it. I told her I understood that feelings are complicated and that she probably hadn't planned any of this. I meant that too. But I also told her that what I'd seen, not just the post, but the months of it, the distance, the way she'd been slowly paying more attention to a door that was supposed to be closed, wasn't something I could unknow, couldn't unfeel, couldn't work around. I deserve someone who's fully here, I said, not someone who's still wondering about somewhere else. She nodded. Slowly. I know, she whispered. And that, I know, quiet and low and absolutely honest, was the most complete answer she'd given me all night. I stayed that night, not because I was wavering, because it was practical, and because ending something that's 2 years old in one conversation at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday is not how it actually works. We slept in the same bed, on our own sides. No touching. Neither of us slept much. In the morning, I started the process of separating our lives, carefully, without drama, without spite. Over the next week, I got my things. She got hers. We canceled the trip. I took care of the hotel. She handled the flights. We divided what needed to be divided. She texted once, a few days in. How are you doing? I replied, okay. You. Getting there. That was the last real exchange. Here's the part one haven't said yet. The part that reframes everything. About 3 weeks after we ended things, I got a message from Qley. Unexpected. We weren't particularly close. She was Amber's friend, but she'd always been decent to me. She apologized for reaching out, said she hoped I was doing all right, and then said, I want you to know I told her to take that post down the night she posted it. I saw it before you did. She wouldn't. I read that twice. She wouldn't. Meaning she'd had the chance. Meaning someone who knew me, who knew us, had looked at that post and understood exactly what it meant and went directly to Amber, and Amber had still left it up. For 47 minutes, while I sat 10 feet away. I thought about that for a long time. Not with anger. More with the particular quiet that comes when the last piece of something slots into place. She hadn't posted it thoughtlessly. Or maybe she had. But when given the opportunity to pull it back, to choose me over that public moment of grief for something that was supposed to be over, she hadn't. That choice told me something nothing else in the conversation had. People ask me if I wish I'd handled it differently. If I should have pushed harder, earlier, when I first noticed the song she skipped and the street she avoided. Maybe. But here's what I've come to believe about situations like this. You can't make someone choose you. You can't talk someone into being present. You can't argue someone's feelings into alignment with what you need them to be. And you shouldn't have to. The person you build a life with should be there. Not because you cornered them into it. Not because you caught them and gave them no other option. But because being there is what they genuinely want. When that stops being true, everything else is just maintenance on something that's already finished. A month after it ended, I found myself sitting on my couch on a Friday night. No plans. My apartment felt loud in its quiet. I sat there for a while just being in it. And then, slowly, I started to feel something that surprised me a little. Not happiness exactly. Not relief exactly. More like the feeling you get when you finally put down something heavy you'd been carrying for a long time without fully realizing how much it weighed. You didn't know how tired you were until you stopped. I went through my own camera roll at some point. Just scrolling, not looking for anything. Found photos from the trip we'd taken in year one. Both of us laughing somewhere. Her head back. My arm around her. Actually happy. Actually there. I looked at it for a moment. I didn't caption it. I didn't post it. I put my phone down. And I thought, we were good once. Past tense. No emoji. No public announcement. Just a quiet truth I could hold privately and then let go of. That's the difference. Brent called me that weekend. How are you? Better than I expected. That's either a good sign or a bad sign. I think it's a good sign. You eating? Yes. Sleeping? Getting there. He paused. You did the right thing, man. I know. She wasn't choosing you. I know. And you didn't make a scene. You didn't blow it up. You just walked. Yeah. That takes more strength than fighting does sometimes. I thought about that. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I was just too tired to fight for something that was already letting go of me. He didn't have an answer for that. I didn't need one. Qley and Amber, I found out eventually, the way you find out things you weren't looking for, got back together. About 6 weeks after she and I ended. I saw it on Instagram. Not because I was checking. Because someone sent it to me with an "Are you okay?" attached. I stared at it for a moment. A new photo. Both of them. No sad caption this time. Just a regular picture with a location tag and a dozen heart emojis in the comments. I thought about how that was supposed to feel. I thought it was supposed to feel like devastation. Like the ground dropping out. Like proof that I'd been replaced. Or more accurately, that I'd never been the real thing to begin with. But it didn't feel like that. It felt like math. Like a problem that had been waiting for its correct answer for years and had finally found it. They had 3 years. She'd never stopped. She tried. I believe she genuinely tried. But you can't try your way out of something you haven't truly left. I wasn't her answer. I was the time between her questions. And I'd rather know that and be free of it than not know it and keep building something on a foundation that was never fully mine. There's this version of this story where I'm the victim, the wrong boyfriend, the guy who got blindsided by a woman who was emotionally somewhere else the whole time. And look, objectively, that's a part of what happened. But that's not the whole story. And I'm not interested in carrying it that way. Because the truth is more complicated. The truth is that she was a person who genuinely cared about me and also couldn't let go of someone else. Both of those things were real. They were just ultimately incompatible. With me. With what I needed. With what I'd built myself to deserve. I'm not going to tell you that I bounced back immediately. I didn't. The first few weeks were difficult in that low-level, ambient way that's worse than a dramatic breakdown because there's nothing sharp enough to push through. Just a dull missing. A habit of reaching for your phone to tell someone something and remembering you can't. A Sunday morning quiet that used to feel full and now just feels like space. But space isn't the same as emptiness. And quiet isn't the same as lonely, though it takes a while to learn the difference. I threw myself into things that were mine. Not as a distraction, as a reclamation. I started running again, something I'd slowly let go of over the past year. Got back to cooking for myself, which sounds small but meant something. Spent more time with people I'd let drift a bit. Brent, a couple of other friends whose calls I'd been a bit slow to return. Started saving more deliberately. Read more. Slept better, eventually. None of this is revolutionary. But there's something quietly radical about turning your full attention back to your own life after spending years giving a significant portion of it to someone else. You remember what you're actually like when no one else's needs are mixed into yours. You remember what you like, what you want, what you're capable of. 6 months out. I'm okay. More than okay. I'm not dating yet. Not because I'm broken or bitter or hung up on what happened, but because I'm being more deliberate now. About who I give my time to. About what I'm willing to overlook. About the difference between someone who chooses you actively, every day, and someone who's just letting things continue, because letting things continue is easier than making a real choice. I know the difference now. I felt the difference. And I know which one I'll accept next time. There's one more thing I want to say. About that screenshot. I still have it. Not because I look at it. I don't. But because I remember the version of me that night, sitting on the couch, the TV on mute, the city hum outside, her phone lighting up with his comment, her asleep in my bed, and I remember what it felt like to see something clearly. No argument. No gaslighting. No he said she said. Just a photo, a caption, a timestamp, and a screenshot. Evidence I could look at and trust. Evidence that told me, this is what is actually happening. Not what you hoped was happening. Not what you told yourself was happening. This. And I made my decision. Not loudly. Not with a scene. Not with a long argument that would have let her reframe it, and me doubt myself, and us spend 3 weeks in a fog of confusion before arriving at the same place anyway. Just quietly. Completely. That night. People are always surprised by that. You didn't even fight for it? But here's the question I'd ask back. Fight for what exactly? For her to tell me it was just nostalgia? For her to take the post down and promise it wouldn't happen again? For her to feel guilty enough to stay present for a while before eventually drifting back? I've watched enough of those stories to know how they go. You fight. You win the argument. You lose the war. Because the problem was never the post. The post was just the thing I could take a screenshot of. The problem was everything underneath it. Months of it. A whole architecture of slowly turning away, and no argument was going to rebuild that. The only way to fight for something is if both people are fighting. If only one person is. If one person is gripping the rope and the other has already let go, even if they haven't admitted it yet, then you're not fighting for a relationship. You're just refusing to land. I landed. On my own terms. Without cruelty. Without a war. Some mornings I make coffee, stand in my kitchen, and it's just me and the cup and the quiet. No sticky notes. No second mug. No shared mornings. And some days that ache sits in the room with me. I let it. I don't chase it out. It's allowed to be there. But it doesn't run things anymore. I was watching something a while back, some late night show, just background noise, and a comedian said something offhand that I've thought about since. The bravest thing you can do is choose yourself in a moment when everything in you wants to choose someone else. I don't know if I was brave. I don't think I need to call it that. I just think I was honest. With myself. About what I'd seen. About what it meant. About what I needed. And honesty, the clean, unglamorous kind, turns out to be enough. It actually turns out to be everything. The screenshot is still in my phone, somewhere in a folder I don't open. But I took it for a reason. And the reason was this. Some moments ask you to look at what's actually in front of you. Not what you want to see, not what you've been telling yourself, not the softer version that lets everyone off the hook. Just the truth. Clear and time-stamped and 47 minutes old. We were perfect once. Yeah, maybe they were. But she and I, we were something else. We were real, and trying, and sometimes beautiful. And then we were done. And I was the one who knew it first. That night, I made my decision. I didn't announce it. I didn't perform it. I just made it. Quietly. Completely. And then I went to sleep.